Hi, my name's Rob Briggs. I'm a VDI reference architect with the Microsoft Group at NetApp. Today, I'd like to show you how to provision Citrix VDI on Microsoft Hyper-V using PowerShell scripts. Using PowerShell and NetApp storage technologies, we're able to quickly and efficiently deploy thousands of VDI instances. So here's a little look at our environment. Here we're on a Windows 8 server with Hyper-V, and these are our infrastructure virtual machines. In addition, we have a Windows 2008 server, R2 SP1, with some pre-created virtual machines already showing here. In addition, one of our virtual machines, infrastructure virtual machines, is a PVS server. And then we have SCVMM 2012. And finally, our XenDesktop Studio. And now for the moment you've been waiting for, step 1 of provisioning the virtual machines. This involves a PowerShell script called genVMs. So we're on the SCVMM 2012 virtual machine here, and we have a PowerShell window open. And we're going to execute genVMs.ps1, and it's going to ask us to input some variables for the virtual machines that we're going to be rolling out. I'm going to call them new desktops, and I'm only going to go ahead and provision out 2 instances here so that you guys don't have to sit through a lot of provisioning. And once we input all the different variables, we'll go ahead and type in yes, and it will begin to create the virtual machines for us. As you can see, it's beginning. And if we look at the VMM console, you can see that new desktop 0001 has already been created. And there's a sleep mechanism in the PowerShell script that waits for 30 seconds just to keep VMM happy. So in a few seconds it will go ahead and provision the second desktop for us. And as you can see, it's starting to provision the second desktop, and new desktop 0002 has been created for us. So now we're moving on to step 2 of the provisioning process. We're going to use a script called modify VMs. And with this script, we'll be on the VMM server again. And as you can see, if we look at one of the desktops we just created, and we look at its hardware profile, and we look at the legacy NIC that's associated with it, its MAC address is dynamic. We need that to be static, and we need to have a static MAC address assigned to it. So we're going to open up a PowerShell window, and we're going to execute modify VMs.ps1. And we're going to put in a string labeling or defining the name of the VMs that we just created, and then SCVMM will go through the process of assigning static MAC addresses to each one of those virtual machines. So if we look at it now after we've executed that PowerShell script, and we're going to the hardware configuration, and we look at the legacy NIC, you can see that we now have a MAC address that's static. So now that we have the MAC addresses statically assigned, we'll move on to step 3 of the provisioning process, which is to create a thin provision fixed virtual disk. This will be used for the PVS write cache, which will need to be attached to each VM. So we're on the VDI host, and we have a PowerShell window open with the data on tap PowerShell toolkit instantiated. And we're going to type new NA virtual disk and type in the path that we want to create this virtual disk at, and then the size. I'm going to go ahead and create a 4 GB disk here and hit enter, and you can see it created it in only like sub-seconds. And if we look at Windows Explorer and we go to the path where we created that, you'll see the wcmaster.vhd there waiting for us. Now that we've created a thin provision fixed VHD for our PVS write cache, and it's our master VHD, we'll need to attach that to a virtual machine, partition it, format it, and get it ready to be attached to all the other VMs. Once that's completed, we're ready to run NA-clone-WC, which will clone the virtual disk to each virtual machine subfolder. So we're going to go back to the VDI host and open up PowerShell, and in it we're going to type NA-clone-WC.ps1, the controller IP, credentials, path to the master VHD, virtual machine subfolder location, and a base name of the VMs. We'll hit enter and get some feedback from PowerShell. And now if we navigate to Windows Explorer and to the location of each of the virtual machines that we've created, you'll see the write cache present there. Now that we've created each virtual machine's write cache VHD and put it into their subfolder structure, we'll need to attach it to their virtual machine shell. So we're back on the VMM server, and if we look at the properties of one of the newly created virtual machines, under its hardware configuration, we'll see that there's no virtual disk attached to it. In order to attach the write cache virtual disk we created, we'll need to open up a PowerShell window and type in attach vhd.ps1. And then we'll go ahead and type the path on the VDI host that those virtual machines are located, the base name of the virtual machines, and then the appended _WC that we created when we created the write caches. We'll go ahead and hit enter. And you'll see that it'll recognize against that base name and start to attach each individual write cache to its VM shell. And it's completed. And we'll go ahead and look at the properties of that virtual machine again under its hardware configuration. And we'll see that the write cache VHD is now attached to it. The virtual machines we've created are now ready to be imported into PVS. In order to do that, though, we'll need to create a CSV file containing the MAC addresses and the names of each of those virtual machines. So we're on our PVS server, and we're looking at our site and our collection, and as you can see, the VMs we've created are not present. So we'll go back to VMM and open up a PowerShell window, and in order to create the CSV that contains the MAC addresses and the virtual machine names, we'll execute gen PVS file. In addition, we'll type in the site, the collection name, a description for the Windows 7 desktops, an output path for the CSV file we're going to create, and finally, the base VM name. And as this is executed, we'll go to Windows Explorer, and you'll see the file that we created. So we're back on the PVS server, and we're right-clicking on the site name and choosing Import Devices. And we'll go ahead and click Next. And then we're going to go ahead and browse for that CSV file that we just created. And we're going to go ahead and apply template devices to these. And you'll see the two desktops. And we'll go ahead and click Next and Finish. And they are imported. Now if we look at the device collection, you'll see the two desktops in there with their static MAC addresses next to them. The seventh step in our provisioning process is to add VDI to Active Directory. So we're on our domain controller here, and as you can see, the machine accounts for our new desktops are not under the computer's OU. So we'll go back to our PVS server, and we'll go ahead and select both of those desktops, and we'll right-click on them, and we'll choose Active Directory, Create Machine Account. Once we do that, we'll go ahead and just create account, and then we'll close that out. So now we're on our eighth and final step of the provisioning process, and that's to add the VDI desktops to a XenDesktop catalog. So we're on our XenDesktop Studio now. As you can see, we have 5 pre-created machines, and there's our desktop catalog, and we'll go ahead and add devices to that catalog. And we'll go ahead and select our site and our collection on the PVS server. Click Next. And then we'll go ahead and click Finish to verify that. And as you can see, the desktop catalog now has 7 virtual machines, and there are our new desktops. I hope this presentation has been helpful for you. Please visit blogs.netapp.com/msenviro for more information. Thank you.